This, just real quick.
Sure.
This really was significant for me
Mhm.
because the truth of the matter is that I had to go to. I volunteered for alcohol rehab while I was stationed in Okinawa,
Mhm.
and it was a very low point in my life. I was broken before I went into the Marine Corps, and I'd like to say that the Marine Corps saved my life in so many ways, you know.
Awesome.
It was another battle that I was
Battled
dealing
in.
within, yes. And through that experience, a year later, I was Marine of the Month. I was
There you
Meritorious
go.
Promotion, and so
Definitely something to be proud of.
yeah, yeah.
Today is Thursday, September 29th, 2016. My name is John Rodriguez, a volunteer with the Hanford branch of the Kings County Library Volunteer History Project. Would you please state your full name?
Julie Anna Edwards.
And Julie, where are you from?
I am originally from New Mexico, Las Cruces, New Mexico. I was born on Holloman Air Force Base, and then I was raised in San Jose, California.
And are your parents still with us?
My mother is. She lives here in Hanford.
Mhm.
Yeah, she's 84, part-time real estate agent.
Wow.
And my dad was an Army veteran, and he passed away about 12 years ago.
And you said your mother is in real estate. Has she always been in real estate, or?
No, the first time she retired, she decided to dabble into the real estate market, and then she retired, and then she went and dabbled some more, and still at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your father, was he a career military man?
He served, I believe, 15 years. I didn't grow up with him, but I got to know him later in life, and he told me his story.
Mm. And you have 5 siblings.
Yes.
5 siblings. And
Yeah.
what are their ages?
Victor is 62, and then I'm next, 59. And then Russell is 57, and who comes after that? Dana is 2 years younger than that, and Tracy and Bernie are 52. Yeah.
Let's talk about you a little bit. What did you do before serving, before you served?
Actually, I had finished my associates here in San Jose, and I moved back home to New Mexico. And I was working a part-time job as a volunteer coordinator. And that job was kind of off and on, and then it was like I was out of a job because of contract problems. And then, so I was just sitting there thinking, well, what to do next? I knew I needed to do something.
Mm-hmm. And
I
you went with the
joined-
Marines. Oh, there you go. And this was, you enlisted in what year?
1979, March of 1979.
And what was the inspiration behind that choice of branch?
Oh, you know, when my uncle, I had my mother had 4 brothers. One was in the Army, he was the oldest, and then the other 3 were Marines. And this is during Vietnam. And so they would come home and stop in San Jose and visit with us and whatnot, and I was always impressed by them. I just thought they were awesome people. And at any rate, fast forward, I had taken my grandmother and my 3 aunts to visit a cousin of theirs at the VA hospital in El Paso, Texas. And as I was contemplating what my next move was going to be, what to do with myself, I saw a military service member, a female military service member walk in front of me, and I said, aha,
That's it.
that's it. There was no looking back. As soon as I got back into town there in Las Cruces, I just went straight to the recruiters, and I walked in the door and I said, sign me up.
You knew where your heart was.
And they were glad to oblige.
Right, and
Yeah.
let's talk about the boot camp experience.
Boot camp. That was fun. Yeah. You know, you get there at dark 30 at night, and you're kind of herded into the bus once you get into this little airport. I went to boot camp in Parris Island, South Carolina. So we were picked up in Savannah, and we had that long drive to PI. And when they went and dropped the women off, we got off at these old wooden army barracks. You know, that's what they look like anyway from the movies. And so we were dropped off in front of there and sucked in. And that first morning, it was all about trash cans flying everywhere, left and right, making all kinds of noise at dark 30 in the morning. And that was the beginning of boot camp.
I bet it was a mixture of being unnerving and scary and exciting all at the same time.
Yeah, the whole cha-cha. It was interesting. It was exciting. It was like, oh boy, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, it was a little bit challenging for me in the beginning, not because of the rigorous schedule that they had and the things that we needed to do and whatnot, but more so mentally getting accustomed to the routine and discipline, because you know the Corps is all about that.
Right.
And so I think it was more of a mental challenge than anything else.
Let's talk a little bit about the gears behind the machine. Let's talk about the DIs that you had to go through.
DIs, yeah. I still remember their names: Sergeant Raznik, Sergeant Strittenmatter, and Staff Sergeant Alvarado, and Sergeant Reed. Yeah, that was a fun crew right there.
Yeah?
Yes, indeed. And I truly could appreciate them because they had a mission to do, and they did it very well. Very well. Yeah, and
yeah.
so yeah, just the whole boot camp experience. It was just you have to appreciate it, you know, or otherwise it just kind of breaks you a little bit. And yeah.
Well, they accomplished their mission because you're a Marine.
Amen. Amen to that. With a certain discipline that has carried me through my life, you know, even in the hardest times, because we all have those challenges, don't we?
Yes.
And somehow or another, you just pull yourself up by those bootstraps and you keep on going, no matter what.
Get it done.
That's
Right.
powerful. Powerful.
Something that never leaves you.
Nope.
Well, let's talk about military life and adjusting to it.
Oh, yeah. You know, I was mentioning about the mental attitude, about the whole thing, about the organization and everything like that. In 1979, it was still pretty chauvinistic, you know. The ratio of men to women was extremely high. My first duty station was Okinawa, there at Camp Butler. I was with 12th Marines, 3rd Marine Division. And I was assigned to a battery, although I worked at regimental headquarters. In our battery, I think we were somewhere around 150 strong, and there was only 9 women, I believe. So you really had to prove yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you just didn't want to be looked at as
Weak, perhaps?
weak woman, someone that they could get over on.
Right.
type of deal and whatnot. So, although we weren't at war, that for women, I believe that was a bit of a war that we were going through, a little bit of a conflict, if you will, for us to make a big, huge adjustment to how to conduct yourself, how to carry yourself. And they don't prepare you for that in boot camp. I don't think that they were, I think they couldn't step out of that perimeter other than basic training, you know what I'm saying? And so when you were out in the fleet, well, you found out real quick.
So it was just something that wasn't so much addressed at that time.
No, not in boot camp. Well, ever, you know. It's something that you had to go through and come to a clear understanding about what your position was. You had to be a strong woman, in my opinion. Because otherwise people just take advantage of you, or really that constant barrage of male dominance, you know what I mean?
The boys club.
Yeah, the boys club. And so, is it bad? Well, yeah, it is. But in the long run, it just makes you a more determined, courageous, and awesome Marine.
Tough. Right.
You know? But you have to, you know, for some of us, we just have to learn that lesson. And others don't quite grasp it.
What would be your advice to a woman going into any branch of the service in regards to that?
You know, I talked to my daughter before she joined the Army, you know, and I made it clear to her. I said, look, it's an awesome thing to be a part of our nation's armed forces and whatnot. Just a whole different kind of world. But you must be prepared for it as a woman going into that male dominance world. Because you're going to find that discrimination. You're going to experience it. You're going to be faced with challenges that we take for granted out here in the civilian world, right?
I was just about to ask you that because, you know, a lot of times we're sent off, our armed servicemen, women, are sent off to these places where women are not held in very high regards.
Right.
And
right.
So you, like you said, you have to be mentally tough.
Yeah.
To,
you know, it's a very structured, very regimented environment, occupation. You know, here in the civilian world, you can do lawsuits, you can do this, you can do that, and you have all kinds of options. In the Corps, in the military, it's kind of contained, you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
It's kind of contained. So really, you have to be smart about what you're doing and how you carry yourself. That is huge. And the other part of that hugeness is acceptance. You can battle against it, and you're going to drive yourself crazy. You're going to create more stress for you than what you need to. Acceptance is huge also. Accept that it is what it is, and it's up to you to make it what you want it to be. You know, you're going to face all these challenges and everything like that, but you got to pull yourself up. Dagnabbit, you got to pull yourself up and keep on going. I didn't have anybody to tell me like that. You know what I mean? In the beginning?
Yeah.
I ended up in alcohol rehab when I was on Okinawa. I volunteered for that because I was spinning out of control and whatnot. But once out of there, I was like, whoa, whole new world. A year later, I made Marine of the Month, meritorious promotion. And why? Because I learned to carry myself.
So you came out stronger.
Yes. I came out stronger, wiser. You have to. You have to. you cannot be bound by those kind of negative experiences, you know what I mean? Because then you're then you become the pal,
Right.
right?
And of course, the Marines foster that sense of I can do it.
Yes.
There's nothing I can't do.
Yes.
That wall's
Yeah.
not high enough. That wall's
My
not.
beloved Marine Corps, I'll tell you what, that a sense of pride just fills you every time you want to tell somebody about how you're a Marine. You know, yeah, I see Marines at the store. You know, they might be wearing a lanyard or a
Right.
T-shirt or
Yeah.
a ball cap or whatever like that, and sometimes it's just the haircut.
Then you know. Then you know.
And I thought, that's a Marine right there.
Yeah.
And I go up and I say, Semper Fi.
Yeah.
And sure enough, Semper Fi, a big old smile comes on their face and a nice handshake and
It's
whatnot.
core. It's
Core all the way. Yep.
well. Let's talk about something a little bit lighter. How about the chow? How was the chow?
Ciao. In the beginning, it wasn't too swift. And I'll tell you why, because they had me as a fat body. In beginning in boot camp, you know, I was a little bit overweight and whatnot back then. And so they put me on the fat body diet, which was hardly anything. And so I lost all the weight and everything, and it was good to go.
Right.
But I get to Okinawa and I really didn't want to eat because back then they didn't have air conditioning in these barracks in the mess hall. So that was some nasty food after, you know, all that humidity and everything that you experience when you get to Okinawa. Oh my God, that was nasty stuff. But they built a nice DFAC, dining facility, mess hall. And it had air conditioning and it was good to go.
It made the food just a little bit better. Huh?
Yes, it was awesome.
And what did you do on leave? When you
On leave, I went out exploring. When I was in Okinawa, I just went out into the community and exploring different places and
Took in the
whatnot.
culture.
Yeah, stayed away from where most military service members were. I just wanted to be a part of apart from that and get more into the culture of things, and I truly enjoyed that.
And how long were you in Okinawa?
I was there a year. And then when I got to Barstow, actually I had orders for the headquarters reserve unit in New Orleans, Louisiana, when I came back stateside. But I kind of got married while I was on leave. And my orders were modified and I was there at MCLB Barstow. And so that's an interesting place all in itself, you know, the desert, and go out and shoot, my husband and I, out in the desert and look for desert turtles and snakes.
Did you have any specialized training?
That's another story. You know, back then we weren't allowed to qualify. Not in the Marine Corps you weren't, unless you were an armorer or MP, something of that nature. You were not allowed to go out into the field. You were not allowed to qualify, although you were issued a M16, so you could keep that clean and parade around it when we had inspections. But that was about it. I was an 0151, so I went to admin school, and that's why I was working at the regiment headquarters and that battalion headquarters, and over at the INI in Washington, D.C. And so when I got out, 6 years later, I go back in, and we have to do these rifle quals and all this kind of stuff. Well, our first sergeant, he was a ex-drill instructor. And he wanted everybody to make first class on the PFT as well as the rifle qual. He didn't have a problem, you know, when we went out to the field and we were repelling and all that kind of stuff. He didn't probably have a problem with that. But with that rifle qual, he wanted everybody to go first class. Well, the girls were younger than I was. And so they were in a different era, you know, where they had to go and qualify and whatnot.
Right.
And because I hadn't qualified before, He said it was a no-go. So my job was pulling butts all day long for everybody else as an E4 NCO.
Now, when you were enlisted, what was the conflict at the time that America?
The second time I was in, because I got out right before like Grenada and Noriega and all those little conflicts.
That was
Well,
in
they
the
were
80s.
just starting up actually when I got out in '81. There was talk about it and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of missed out on that. But when I went back into the reserves, I was working 90-day contracts and that sort of thing. And so two of my units that I had been attached to, they were called up to go to the Desert Storm. And I would have gone except for the fact that I got pregnant. I was pregnant. And so I stayed behind and I worked with the legal department, Fort CAG, and we did the wills and powers of attorney for all of Washington, D.C., reservists, and Baltimore. It came out to somewhere around 740 wills and powers of attorney. All of them came back except for one. And that was my friend.
Would you like to speak about some of the stresses that are associated with that particular?
It's, I guess in a certain way, I thought I had it together, I'm sorry. But actually, Kip Parimba, and I want to say his name, Kip Parimba, wonderful, wonderful man, a young man. He was 19 years old. He had potential to be just anything he wanted to be. Actually, he just had the charisma and the intelligence. I mean, he was just a great guy. And we would work together all the time when he'd come in for his weekend warrior thing and whatnot. And when they told me about him, that just floored me. I should have went. Not him. But through the grace of God, everybody else came back, so that was a good thing. That was a good thing. And actually, later on, I separated from my ex-husband and I came here to Hanford and whatnot. And once again, I was going to try to get back in. And I had my paperwork all in for National Guard, and this is Gulf War was already in force, and I had all my paperwork in and everything. I was set to go, and I didn't hear from my recruiter, and I kept trying to get a hold of him for about a month, and I couldn't get a hold of him, and so I finally got a hold of a young lady, and she said that they had sent him to the fence. And I explained to her that all my paperwork was in, and I wanted to know what was going on with that. And she couldn't find it. She couldn't find the paperwork, and they were just overwhelmed. They were at the reserve unit in Fresno, the National Guard. And so I just kind of figured, all right, it's played out. I'm done.
And that's when you knew.
And I let it go. I let it go. I guess it just wasn't meant for me to actually get over there.
Right.
I had 5 kids by then.
Oh.
And single parenting. Yeah.
Do you want to talk about your military friendships?
My what?
The friends that you made while you were in during your time?
About the only people that I've been in contact with are my friends there in Washington, D.C. And Worrell, he actually became a detective for Washington, for the Washington Metro. He became a detective. I think he just retired here lately. But yeah, that's about the only one that I've been in contact. But you know what? I see it like this. Friends are every single military member.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those are your comrades. I'm a part of American Legion Post 40. I'm going to be transferring back here to Post 3 here pretty soon. But you know, those are my comrades.
Your brothers in arms.
Yep, lifelong brothers in arms. We share stories. We support and encourage each other. You know, I recommend that to. Truth be told, I work over at the Naval Station.
Okay.
In the transition program. So as the service members are separating or retiring, we hold a 5-day long classes, and that's to assist them in that transition into civilian world, right? With education or employment and things of that nature and whatnot. And when I have an opportunity to talk to these service members, I highly encourage them to look into the service organizations that are out in the community.
Utilize those resources.
Utilize those resources. You know, you have that camaraderie. You know, people understand you at these places. You know what I mean? You're not just talking to a civilian. You're talking to someone who's been there, done that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so I push that as often as I can. Yeah, to tell them to look into these service organizations, because also, you know, that you can discover that you have certain benefits. You know, we saturate them with so much information, and one day is nothing but VA, VA benefits, and a lot of that, you know, they may retain maybe a quarter of that, but once they're gone,
Right.
in my day, you didn't hear no mention of anything. And in fact, I was called back to the personnel officer, and he said, "Okay, this is your RE code on what you're getting out on, the honorable discharge, and do you want to cash in your V, which was my school money, my GI Bill." And at that time, it was just you put in $1,200, they give you $1,200. So I had an opportunity to either cash it in or utilize it. I said, well, at that time, I just went ahead and cashed it in.
Right.
And they said, "Okay, that's it. See ya." Didn't know anything about veterans benefits, nothing. I didn't consider myself a veteran. I hadn't been to combat.
So you sort of sold yourself short.
Yeah, and on top of that, I was a female. I didn't have, it didn't register. Not until I joined the American Legion here that Jim Lint, the adjutant there at Post 3, he was telling me, he says, "You know, women are veterans too."
Yeah.
And we taught some and all that kind of stuff, and before I knew it, I was a part of American Legion Post 3, and I started learning about the benefits. It took me another, and as a reservist when I got out, still I didn't know anything. Nobody said boo.
Wow.
They just handed me the walking papers, and that was that. Wow. And so it was another 10, 12 years. No, it was 15 years before I started realizing that I could actually go to the VA hospital and have my medical taken care of and all that kind of stuff. And it was another 5 years before I realized that I needed to submit paperwork for disability. And I got a 30% rating for service-connected disability. Yeah. So Yeah.
Were you awarded any medals or citations?
Yeah, I had a couple of meritorious masks. One was for noteworthy and an inspection that we had of our service members' records and that sort of thing. The Sea Service Medal, good conduct. I had good conduct. And what else? Marine of the Month.
In this picture right here.
Oh, Marine of the Month. That was Marine of the Month. And Meritorious Promotion, all in 1 month. That was the most proudest moment in my life as a Marine. And that's because, again, as I mentioned before, I was in alcohol rehab a year before this. And so when I got to MCLB Barstow, all of a sudden, I'd say about 6 months, no, about 3 months later, I was thrown into the role of handling all of the admin for the CO and the XO of the battalion, headquarters battalion, because our admin chief was sent back to personnel and whatnot. And the civilian employee, she left to DC, as a matter of fact. And so she schooled me on a lot of things. So as an E3, you know, I was filling that E8 billet. And I picked up Meritorious Promotion and Marine of the Month in January. And so from that point on, they weren't in any hurry to get an E8 to fill that billet. It didn't seem like anyway. I was doing the job all right, so many hours. Many hours. Weekend hours too. Yeah. That had to be my proudest moment, because I was accomplishing what I needed to accomplish.
And then you went through a dark period and came out
Yes.
with that, and that's
Yes.
definitely something to be proud of.
Yes. I'm a humble person, I really am. I don't like to toot my horn loud at all. But that gave me hope. You know, that just proved that I had it in me to be what I was called to be.
Yes. And what you knew you were.
Yeah.
Do you attend any reunions, or are you involved in any sort of military ceremonies?
No, outside of the American Legion, and actually I'm going to be joining the AMVETS also here pretty quick in the Marine Corps League, I think. That's what I surround myself with, really. I haven't heard of any reunions, and I really don't look for them.
And how would you describe your readjustment to civilian life?
Oh. I think at some point or another it had been frustrating, just because you're in the box. You're in the box with the structured routines and way of doing things. You know what I mean? And you use protocol and you have a chain of command, that kind of thing. You know, you're more or less taken care of in terms of medical and dental and all that other stuff and whatnot. So that when you come out to the civilian community, it feels like there's like a lack of respect for everyone. You know, not just towards service members, but everyone just there's an element that's missing from the workforce. Yeah, you know how to conduct yourself with respect and integrity, and I think a lot of us have to readjust our thinking, or our way of thinking. Well, maybe not the way we think, but again, acceptance is huge. Not everybody is like us, unique.
Especially a Marine.
Especially a Marine.
How have these experiences impacted your outlook on on military service and war.
We need the military. Period. End of story. There's no question about it. And resources, you know, so much money is being taken away from the military that it kind of, I don't want to say that the mission suffers, because military is resourceful any which way. We will get the job done, especially Marines, right? We've had to work with that since the early days.
There is no other option.
There's no other option. You do what you got to do.
You get your job done.
You do what you got to do, period, end of story.
And war? What do you...
War. There's always going to be war. And it's here already. As much as we have tried to contain it outside of our country, it's here. Don't fool yourself. Don't fool yourself.
Future generations are going to see this interview. What would you like them to know? What are your thoughts that you'd like to share with them?
I think the first and foremost thing is that there's so much positive that you can get out of a military experience. Granted that politics are involved in military decisions, you know, defending our country and how we defend our country, because we're always on the defense. We're now out there trying to be on the offense, right? That's what we need to remember. That's what we need to remember. And we persevere because we're strong like that. We don't have this huge history of conflict like some of these other countries do, you know. We've had the luxury of being a peaceful nation within our own core, you know. That's what it was all about from the very beginning. And so that what's ours is ours. We're not going to go looking for the fight, but dagnabbit, we're going to defend it.
Absolutely.
Yes, indeed. It takes a certain kind of person to be a service member, whatever branch that you choose to be a part of. It takes a certain kind of being. It's not for everyone. You come out ahead. I can guarantee you that. And even if you have that experience in the military, there are some core principles and values that will never leave you.